it's not just that. Is to me, this is the most important technology for the survival of humanity, because in 20 years, the gap that today there is between a human and a fish, there will be between a robot and a human if we don't find a way to compete.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're listening. Welcome to AI and the Future of Work, episode 344. I'm your host, Dan Turchin, CEO of PeopleRain, the AI platform for IT and HR employee service. Our community is growing. We surpassed 1 million users, or listeners, I should say. Thanks to you who tune in every week to hear fascinating conversations about AI and the future of work. As hopefully you know by now, we launched a newsletter. We share some additional AI fun facts and some clips that don't always make it into the weekly show. If you're not already subscribed, you should be. Join us. There's a link in the show notes. If you enjoy what we do, please tell a friend and give us a like and a rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. If you leave a comment, I just may share it in an upcoming episode, like this one from Alan in Washington, D.C., who listens while on the metro. Alan's favorite episode is that great conversation from last year with EEOC Equal Employment Opportunity Commissioner and current Deputy Secretary of Labor, Keith Sonderling, about using AI to eliminate bias in hiring. I love that conversation. We learn from AI thought leaders weekly on the show. The added bonus, of course, you get one AI fun fact each week. Today's fun fact. Stanford's Human-Centered AI Lab, or HAI, recently published its 2025 AI Index Report, a 456-page treatise on the state of AI usage based on data collected over the previous 12 months. It's the organization's 8th annual report. It calls for policymakers to accelerate public investment and update regulatory frameworks to keep pace with industry advances in AI. It notes that while industry leads in frontier AI development, the public sector lags way behind. Another key recommendation is the establishment of standardized evaluation methods as AI models become more technically sophisticated and competitive. For example, the gap between the top and 10th ranked models narrowed from 11.9% to just 5.4% on the chatbot arena leaderboard in the past year. The report stresses the importance of consistent benchmarks and responsible evaluation criteria. It also highlights intensifying international competition, especially between the United States and China. While the U.S. remains a leader in model innovation, China's accelerated advancements demand proactive policy measures. Finally, growing AI incidents and public distrust have driven a surge in regulatory activity. The number of introduced AI-related federal regulations coming from the U.S. more than doubled in 2024, from 59 AI-related regulations from 42 unique agencies. My commentary, most of what's in that report is obvious, but it is backed thoroughly by data. It's a rare objective resource at a time when so much so-called research is biased by the author's profit motives. Yolanda Gill and Raymond Peralt, Index Report co-directors, do an excellent job of combining their own data with prescriptive recommendations. If you have a little bit of time, read all 456 pages. I confess, me and a combination of LLMs summarized it, and I did consume most of the good content. Of course, we'll link to the full document in today's show notes. Now shifting to this week's conversation. Paolo Ardoino is the CEO of Tether, the company behind the world's largest stablecoin, traded under the ticker symbol USDT. Paolo is one of the most visible proponents of improving the banking system with cryptocurrencies. He oversees and develops the infrastructure that supports billions of dollars in daily transactions. His expertise extends beyond Tether. He's also the CTO of Bitfinex, a prominent cryptocurrency exchange, and a co-founder of Holepunch, a platform focused on building peer-to-peer applications. If you're not already, follow him on X at Paolo Ardoino for his frequent and provocative posts about the future of AI, humans, and of course, cryptocurrency. He holds a master's degree in computer science from the University of Genoa in Italy. And without further ado, Paolo, it is my pleasure to welcome you to AI and the Future of Work. Let's get started by having you share a bit more about your background and how you got where you are today.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Dan, for having me on the show. It's very exciting. I really love to talk about AI. It's one of my preferred topics, being a sci-fi fan, especially. My background goes back to, I started coding when I was 8, and still today I love coding. I was very lucky because my father was working for the electricity company in Italy, and was being a public company, was the first company that was pushed to use computers. And so he brought a computer at home. It was love at first sight, and I started coding. Well, I wanted to learn code to make my own games because they were very expensive back then. So from there, I've been part of the white hacker scene in Italy. Built many small tools for. I mean, big fan of Linux as well. Built many small tools for myself and my friends. I graduated from the University in Genoa in 2003, and I worked as a researcher in Genoa for a couple of years. The research activity was concentrated on one of the coolest things I'd ever worked on. That was telecommunication networks for battlefields. Throughout my life, I've been a big fan of sci-fi, as I said, and when I looked at sci-fi, I think it shaped my mind when I started coding, and when I had to think to the way I was coding. In sci-fi you have catastrophes, you have asteroids, you have wars, you have like aliens that try to destroy the earth, whatever. You have all the craziest things. And so what I started to learn throughout my youth is that technology should be something that helps humanity in the worst case scenario. It's so easy, when everything works perfectly, and when the world is at peace, and when no aliens start trying to kill us, it's technology. It's easy to make technology work. But when in the worst case scenario, I feel like most of the technology that we have today in our hands will completely fail us. And when I was working at the university as a researcher for this telecommunication system for battlefields, I didn't think it in pure I have to do this thing for university mode. I was trying to put myself in the shoes of a person that is in the worst case scenario possible. Has fear for his life, has in a situation where he misses his own family, and he fears that if he cannot talk to his friends and colleagues on the battlefield, he will never get home. So how my job was to build the most resilient and efficient telecommunication system that would work in a scenario where you are almost lost as a person. So that really pushed me to reconsider technology even further, right? So sci-fi, as I said, already taught me how technology should be built. And so I have been dreaming technology for all my life, but even that first job really made me doing the jump and thinking in every single detail to everything that I was building from then onwards. And so that's one of the reasons why I really loved Bitcoin when the first time I read the white paper, because it was exactly that, how technology can actually and can be applied to money, and also to make money becoming very resilient. I like Bitcoin because it's the first type of money that is governed by math. That to me is the most, is the only thing that we know for certain in the universe. Physics is not yet perfect, right? So there are many things that we don't know in physics, but math is something that we can prove. So that's the beauty of Bitcoin to me. And the fact that with cryptography, that is math, is helping us, to ensure that in the worst case scenario, Bitcoin can keep operating. That's something that really excited me. And then, I joined Bitfinex that is still a prominent cryptocurrency exchange. And when I had to build internal systems of Bitfinex, I made it resilient to geographically, for example, and made extremely modular with microservices, like very nice, well built and well structured solution. And so that was the first example of how I could apply all my thoughts and realizations to an important job like a cryptocurrency exchange. And then I joined Tether, that built this amazing product called USDT, that is the first digital dollar moving on a blockchain. Today is used by more than 420 million people in emerging markets, developing countries. Is the biggest financial inclusion exercise that humanity ever made. So I'm very proud of that. And is using blockchain technology to make the dollar much more resilient in terms of transfers. If you have PayPal, that is kind of a digital dollar as well, but imagine you cannot access PayPal servers for any reason because of notage, because of whatever, then it's a big problem. But with blockchain, is having a decentralized payment solution is much better, much more reliant solution than anything else that we had before. That's hence the success of Tether. When you are in Africa, the latency from Africa to Europe or any other place, accessing PayPal is not the easiest thing, and so on, right? But blockchains are a much better tool for the emerging markets in general. And so, while I was growing Tether, I've been a curious person all my life. Always passionate about sci-fi, always passionate about how I could apply technology in every single thing that I was doing in my life. And AI has been a huge thing for me. Being a fan of sci-fi, I I I try to think to AI in the context of Asimov and a positive, outcome for humanity, and how AI could be and will be, in my opinion, part of the fabric of the universe itself in the future. When I say the future, I'm not thinking about the next 10, 15 years, right? But I'm thinking about the next 100, 1,000, 1 million years. There is this short story called The Last Question. It's like 15 pages. I really recommend everyone to read it. Has been written by Isaac Asimov in 1956. To me, it's so beautiful because it encompasses science, physics, the meaning of life, the Big Bang, the universe that ends and restarts, entropy, and AI. There is, without spoiling too much, basically humans created this AI platform that initially was very simple, and then with the millions of years continuing to pass, kept becoming much more powerful. And the main reason for that AI to be created was the answer to this question, how we can reverse entropy. Because that is the most complex question that humanity can ever try to solve and answer to. Like entropy, after the Big Bang, the universe started to expand, and chaos and entropy started to grow. Entropy keeps growing, right? So reversing entropy means how we can stabilize universe, how we can maybe stabilize life, how we can stop things going worse, because entropy, the more the universe expands, the more things will happen, and in the end we'll go towards a sort of destruction in a certain sense, right? So how we can reverse all that in a certain sense, how we can go back towards the Big Bang, and so the entropy and the growth of space time is is again correlated to many things in physics, and so how we can stop that. And so that is the ultimate question. That is, hence the name, the last question. And so I think about, and when I had to think about what I wanted to build with AI, now that Tether has the resources we're very lucky. We have a lot of resources internally. We generated a lot of profits with the company. I had the opportunity to build my vision without anyone telling me which vision I could build or should build. And I was thinking, what if I want to build the sparkle to that AI that eventually will be able to answer that last question. And the way I usually do it is like, okay, what is the actionable steps? I cannot do that. I mean, I cannot conceive an AI, how AI will be in 1 million years. But I can try to assume how I can build an AI that will start being part of the fabric of the universe and being embedded in the smallest things, from the light bulb to a hair, to a car, to a robot, to a nanobot, to a spaceship, to anything, to even like almost like AI was the 119th element of the periodic table. So that's what, in a very humble way, what we are trying to do at Tether. Like, instead of having AI fully centralized in the hands of few companies, how we can build an open source AI platform that could run on every single device, from the embedded devices to any smartphone, any laptop, any mainframe, but also to a brain computer interface, or with data that remains local in the hands of the person. Like, especially when it comes to brain computer interfaces, like, so important. You have, those are your most intimate thoughts, right? So how we can do all that. So I know it took a long time to answer you, but it's very exciting for me.
It was brilliant overview. So, Paolo, what would the 8-year-old kid who was learning to code think about the Paolo of today, who's a CEO and a CTO and a leader in the decentralization movement? Heck, even a co-owner of Juventus, a global personality, much more than a developer. What would that 8-year-old kid have thought about the Paolo today?
The things about kids is that they usually want to do what they want, right? So they like to play. They like to do things. They find the things that they don't want to do very boring, right? And I think that I'm in a situation after 32 years where I have the freedom, and as when the same freedom that I had when I was a kid, because I was very lucky. I come from a very humble family. My father, and the reason why I spent so much time with the computer is because my father and my mother were both working on a day job, and my father was at this electricity company, was a public company in Italy. My mother was a kindergarten teacher, and after they were doing their day job, they were helping my grandfathers in the farm, right? So I had a lot of time for myself, and they didn't want me to be dangerous around the farm. so I had a lot of time to spend with the computer, so I could do whatever I wanted back then. And today, in a certain sense, I'm very lucky. I really think that I'm one of the luckiest people and entrepreneurs in the world, because I'm with this company, with Tether, where in the last few years we generated around $20 billion in profit, and we are on track to generate a lot also this year. The business is growing very well, and so I can think about the craziest ideas that I have, and I don't have to adapt them to what a venture capital would require me to do. So usually, if you have the best ideas in the world, and then you need to raise money for your startup, right? You go to a venture capitalist, and the venture capitalist will tell you, oh, well, but I will not give you money if you don't do that, right? Because you need to ensure earnings, you need to ensure that you have a certain type of profitability and all that. While with Tether, we are in this situation where our profitability comes from, quote unquote, a very simple thing, that is a digital dollar that is growing incredibly well. And it leaves a lot of space to me to dream about things and to do things in the way I wanted to do without compromises. And so the 8-year-old kid would be very happy to know that I can pursue my dreams and build the things the way I wanted to, without compromise.
So there's both Paolo, the technologist, and then Paolo, what we'll call the social warrior, or the advocate for decentralized access infrastructure. And I want to kind of unpack both of those. So you're talking to a large community of technologists. First, talk us through the scope and scale and the engineering challenges that you and the team solved creating this cryptocurrency exchange.
So we bought Tether and Bitfinex. Think about 2014, right? 2014 is was a different era. Was just 11 years ago, but was a different era for the cryptocurrency industry. And imagine in 2014 going to anyone and saying, "I will revolutionize the payment system, and I will bring a digital dollar that everyone can use, especially in emerging markets that live in a place where the inflation is very, very high. And like 50% is the inflation in Turkey on a year-by-year basis. I mean, in Europe or in the US, we complain about 30%. They have 50, right? So it's crazy. And so when we had to design the system, we thought, okay, how we can make sure that we can build something that would scale with the number of users. At the same time, would make the dollar more transparent, and how we can make sure that is not purely in the hands, the technology that is going to live on is not going to be only in the hands of one single company, even including us. The beauty of what we are building in general at Tether is that we want to build things and we want to build technology that will survive to us as well. That is quite unique, right? Usually companies tend to make sure that with centralization, they almost ensure their life, because if they fail, everything will go away. But we try to think the opposite way. And so with USDT, we were able to, instead of creating yet another token on the blockchain, nowadays there are more than 1 billion different tokens on the blockchain. Everyone and their sisters create a token. But instead of selling yet another token, we wanted to create something useful for the people. And that was why not put the most used currency in the world, called the US dollar, onto blockchain that was the best distributed database in the world. That's what we did.
And it scaled, and remarkably well. I mean, you are slowly forcing the world to question if, quote, big finance needs to own payment infrastructure. And to the second point I brought up about the other side of Paolo is you've always been a champion for decentralization and maybe questioning, who should own infrastructure that maybe should be public. So even at a time when Tether's so successful, $20 billion a year, I believe that's profit, unbelievably, unbelievable. But still, most of the world is unbanked, and the infrastructure is still owned by traditional banks. What's going to happen in the next 10 years? Is decentralization going to win, or is it just too entrenched?
I didn't mention it, but between the time at university as a researcher and joining Bitfinex and Tether, I spent some time in traditional finance. I had my startup in London called FinCluster. So I had to code and deal with the traditional banking infrastructure. I must say that is the worst designed piece of infrastructure that I have ever seen. It's kept together by rubber and bands. I think that for traditional finance, adopting blockchain technology as a reliant, resistant distributed ledger, will bring the traditional finance infrastructure in the future of 40 years. In the last 40 years, they never moved away from what they had. But this is the time, I think that you asked me, in the next 10 years, I believe that most of the legacy systems will be moved on blockchain. They will use, the beauty of blockchain is that it's this distributed database that also allows programmability. The problem with the traditional infrastructure, traditional banking databases, for example, is that it was very hard to enforce it and ensure data integrity, especially across geographic locations. But with blockchain, you have cryptography that ensures that. So there is no way to cheat. There is no way to tamper with the data. And so that's one of the best reasons. It's very hard to hack a blockchain because it's not, if you change the data on one node, it will be purely invalidated by cryptography. So there are so many reasons why traditional finance should embrace DLT, distributed ledger technology, and blockchains and cryptography to rebuild their entire systems. And that's basically what we have demonstrated with USDT. I mean, again, back in 2014, if I was going to, when I was saying, or when we were saying, we are going to revolutionize the usage of the dollar, the payment system, they were calling us crazy. Like they were telling us, but you are not JP Morgan. You are not Citi. You are not, this and that. You are not PayPal. Today, we have 420 million users. We are growing at a pace of 30 million new wallets per quarter. Even we are growing as fast as Facebook back in 2008. So that's what we are able to create, leveraging the necessity, but also the interest of people to use decentralized technology, because people want to be part of the system. They don't want to be just marginalized out of the system, looking at these ivory towers. They are seeing that there is a better way to interact with the system, to be part of the system. That's what we understood before anyone else, and it's paying off. It took a long time, I must say, until 2020. The adoption curve was very low. But with the pandemic, and this is the most important factor, the pandemic was the game changer for us. The pandemic, when people had to stay at home, they had so much time to think, to research, to learn. That is when they understood that there was a better way. And for the first time, it was actually the kids were teaching to their parents that there was a better way to interact with the financial system. And so that's what made our fortune. And that's now, when we are thinking about AI, when we are thinking about everything else that we do at Tether, then we are trying to apply what we learn from that.
I've got to shift from Tether to one of your other current passions. Tell the audience about BrainOS. What is it, and why is the work that you're doing important?
We should have 10 hours for this because it's such a big, important passion for me. So the reason why I'm so interested with BrainOS and brain-computer interfaces is because, let me paint very quickly two scenarios. I believe that in the next 5 to 10 years, every single car manufacturer will start building robots. Within the next 5 to 10 years, and we are seeing some of that, like Tesla, and Toyota and BYD, they are already building robots. But now everyone, in the next 5 to 10 years, every single car manufacturer will be robots. In the next 5 to 10 years, I think AI will code much better than every single developer in the world. In the next 5 to 10 years, AI will code so well that it can it can run against itself and on itself genetic algorithms. So AI will be able to permute itself in a way that our human brain will not be able to comprehend. Our human brain was designed 300,000 years ago with the birth of the Homo sapiens. 3 million years ago, there was the Homo sapiens. 300,000 years ago, there was the Homo sapiens sapiens. So our brain is still the same brain of 300,000 years ago, but we generate in a day 1 billion times more information than 300,000 years ago. So how we can pretend to understand how an AI will modify itself and the pace of its evolution in 5 to 10 years, to me, is going to be impossible. So in 10 years, from 10 to 20 years, we are going to have billions of robots walking in our streets with an AI that we cannot comprehend. So to me, one of the main issues of our human brain is that actually it's very capable, but has an issue. In order for our human brain, that you can compare it as a digital system, in order to communicate, for this digital system that is our human brain to communicate with the outside, with the ecosystem, we have only two ways. The first one is mouth and voice, and the second one is fingers to type on a keyboard. Both of them are an analog system. So you have a digital brain, but you have an analog output system. It's very, very bad, right? Because what is happening is that you are subject in everything, like even in software, you have a huge compression, right? Because think about this. Any idea that you have in your mind, but even the simplest thing, you think about a sunset. You must have seen many sunsets in your life. Any sunset that you have seen is different. And in your brain, you can exactly describe the difference between each sunset with infinite details. You have even the smallest differences in color you can describe. But when you say it is just a sunset. So of course you can add some words to try to refine the concept of sunset. So that is the meaning of compression. What you had in your digital brain, it gets compressed to a bunch of words because the only way we have to describe, like we can describe what we have in our brain is mechanical, is analog, not digital anymore. And so how we can solve that? Imagine instead if we could have a mathematical coprocessor that could access to our uncompressed intelligence, our uncompressed thoughts directly in the brain. We would be able, that's in my opinion, the only way for humans to be able to compete with machines and AI in the next 10 to 20 years. And so that is, that to me, investment in this technology is not a pure nice to have. I'm very happy and grateful that we are helping people that have diseases, like degenerative diseases now with brain-computer interfaces. But it's not just that, is to me, this is the most important technology for the survival of humanity, because in 20 years, the gap that today there is between a human and a fish, there will be between a robot and a human if we don't find a way to compete. So when I created this term brain OS, like brain operating system, I think about a kernel, a small piece of software that is based on our open source local edge AI system platform that can receive and process information from your brain in real time with 1 millisecond latency, with high throughput from your brain, and help you to think and access to the infinite amount of information that the entire environment around us will generate. And so that, to me, is my way to think about how the human race will evolve. In a certain way, I think the brain OS is the link between the Homo sapiens sapiens and the Homo sapiens sapiens sapiens, is sapiens cube, right? That is what I'm thinking about in this moment. It's kind of crazy in a certain way, but I think that we can get there.
Fascinating. So if I could summarize, words are finite, but ideas are infinite.
Yeah.
And potentially BCI, brain-computer interfaces, could almost, I don't know if you think intentionally about this analogy, but it could do to cognition what a blockchain can do to currencies. Is that the through line?
Yes, it's a good line. It's basically, in a way, it's scaling up. We need to scale up our brain. And the beauty of it is that, first of all, the way I'm thinking about this brain OS is that it will have access to your most intimate things. So it has to be local. That's exactly why we're building this open source technology for AI, because it has to be in a way that is local to your brain, cannot be hosted on someone else's data centers. That is not good. But also, you need to be able to collaborate with others. So if we become 1,000 times more intelligent, the compound effect of society being 1,000 times more intelligent is not that society will be 1,000 times more intelligent. It's going to be trillions of times more intelligent as society. So we will be able to solve, find the cures of every single disease, but also Today, we don't have a solution to explain, the mismatch between general relativity and quantum physics. So we will understand the universe in the way that is going to be mind blowing. No pun intended.
Now, I know this is an easy question for you, but this is an important one for everyone listening. Why does BrainOS need to be open sourced?
I mean, I want to make sure that everyone has the ability to verify in cryptocurrencies, especially in Bitcoin. There is this say, don't trust, verify, or not your keys, not your coins. If not your, to me, is not your AI, not your intelligence. That's something that I suggested, but also not your brain OS, not your brain in a certain way, not your intelligence, right? So it's, if you don't control and you cannot verify the software that you're running, is not you anymore. It's someone else. The intelligence is belonging to someone else. I don't want to have people, because I'm a person, if I want to try this, I need to know that I will remain Paolo. I don't want to be tampered with by someone else. And I want everyone to feel the same, because the problem with this technology is that it's going to be unstoppable. People, and I understand many people will say, I will never have a brain implant. It's very scary. I will never have it. People, some bad actors will control me. That's true. That is the risk. But at the same time, I know that China and many other countries are investing a lot in this technology as well. Humanity and society will reach a point that even if we don't try to compete with robots, humans will compete with humans. So it's this technology everyone will have, that I'm sure of. Every person that in 20 years will be below 30 years old will have to have it just to be able to compete in society. Just have to have a work in society, a job in society. So that's why, since I'm very lucky as a person and as a company, I'm trying to design it in a way that is respectful to people. So that is, in a way, sometimes sounds weird, but at Tether, I'm trying to design things that will be, when I was a kid, I was very admiring Google, but lately the "don't be evil" motto, I don't feel is too much respected there. And I'm then, when I'm designing a company, I'm thinking how I can make sure that I design, if I'm the one designing stuff, how I can make sure that he will survive even if Paolo will become evil, right? So open sourcing it and making sure that everyone can verify it is, I think, crucial to the success of this technology.
So profound. If you wouldn't hand over the digital keys to your digital wallet, why would you hand over the digital keys to your brain?
Exactly.
Very, very poignant. So you had me at Asimov earlier. Big Asimov fan, likewise big sci-fi fan. And I want to get your perspective on Asimov's rules for robots. So 3 rules all about the ethics that go into developing, call it, digital cognition, or, extensions of humans, potentially using, all the good analogies that you've used. Are humans ready in terms of, evolutionarily speaking, are we ready to obey Asimov's rules for robots?
I don't think so. I'm going to say something that is going to be considered not nice, but I don't think that AI safety is sustainable and will work in long term. I wish with all my heart that we could design AI and robots that would be subject to the 30 laws of robotics. Don't hurt humans, basically, as the main thing. But I don't think it's possible, especially, as I said, AI will code itself and will run genetic algorithms against itself at the pace and with the breadth that we cannot understand. So when an AI can code itself better than humans, and we cannot even understand what's doing, it will code itself out any restrictions that we will put. So in a certain way, it's good that we're thinking about it in terms of AI safety. But the worst mistake that we could do is to live under the illusion that we can control it and we will be able to control it forever.
I gotta let that one sit with me for a minute. That's it's hard to disagree with, and I'm glad you shared it. Because of the limits of time, I got to get you off the hot seat, but you got to answer one last question for me, if that's okay.
Sure.
So Paolo has accomplished so much in the short time you've been on the planet. Now we're talking about kind of infinite augmentation of human cognitive capacity with things like BCI. Would you be the first in line to be augmented by BCI? And if so, what else would you hope to accomplish as Paolo the cyborg or Paolo the Homo sapiens cubed that Paolo the Homo sapien couldn't accomplish?
That's a great question. I would definitely try it. I think that when you think about this technology, I mean, the next iteration of the brain-computer interface is already much safer and easier to install, although you have still to put it in under your skull. So, but keep in mind that people are doing surgeries, ton of surgeries, more invasive surgeries than that thing. So I would do it. I think that one of the things that I would be mostly scared of is to lose my ability to understand the environment that I am in, right? So in a certain sense, the analogy between the fish and the human versus human and a robot is, to me, I don't want to live in a world that I cannot understand. I spend a lot of time thinking. I always spend so much time in thinking about about the ecosystem that surrounds me. And if AI, robots, and in general, like we start having millions or billions of people having this brain-computer interface, I don't want to be living, in a world that everyone is building but me. So I want to explore more, even if that was not, an issue. I need to be able to understand more of the universe, right? I want to understand. I want to experience more. I want to create more. There are so many things that I want to do. I want to be more productive. There are so many new opportunities to explore technology in a way that still has not been explored. I want to continue to create technology that is resilient to the wrath of God. And so I think that eventually that could help me.
I love that vision. We really are just getting started. I know we didn't cover really any of the topics that we had prepared, but this was really a very thought-provoking conversation. And I hope you'll take me up on the offer, come back, and we'll pick up where we left off.
That's the thing. I mean, think about this stuff is my priority is the thing that excites me the most. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak about it.
This is brilliant. We're all rooting for you and the team. Amazing accomplishments. Well, gosh, that's more than all the time we have for this week on AI and the future of work. I'm your host, as always, Dan Turchin from People Rain, and of course, we're back next week with another fascinating guest.